technology is that technology is not what's doing the work. The technology is actually a key that enables the earth to do the work. And what that key does is restabilizes Mother Nature and allows the earth to process the water as Mother Nature originally intended.
Andrew, tell us a little bit about what made you think of this invention. You're obviously a very bright man, but what made you think of this revolutionary concept? Because everywhere in the world, I mean, this is a big problem, anywhere you go. What made you think of this solution?
Well, first of all, what I was thinking, the biggest problem is runoff water. We create this problem. So if we don't fix the problem, we're gonna run out ourselves with no water surrounded. So in the first attempt, what I find out, there was a California.
California, okay.
California has a tremendous problem with the water. They, for example, San Diego, 50,000. They have water enough for 50,000 people. It's 2 million people. They have to import it from Colorado River. So we know already the history. They have to shut down, you know, the restaurants, all entire Los Angeles and in the San Diego region for just the lack of water.
Really?
So, and it's a problem. If we don't do anything about it, we're not going to have a water. So the system, what I was thinking, because I built this system around, you know, my home, and I see potential, you know, ability what can do, because not only, you know, surround your building, because that's where we have problem. We'll build the buildings, we'll put this in, we have a problem, we're fighting with the water. So what we do, we bring this water, you know, we'll try to actually pump it out. And more we draw the water from the ground, more we get.
Got it.
And because this Michigan is surrounded with a lake, so we have so much water. And then I'm looking at this, okay, if this is not only working underground, or also working to this surface, and it's stabilizing the system, also stabilizing the building.
By removing the water, it stabilizes the area around.
Not fully remove the water.
But some of it.
So you have to keep it about between 50 to 55 humidity in the soil. So that's a perfect environment for growth.
55%, you're saying?
55%,
humidity, got it. Okay. So that it's stable enough, but yet so not so dry that it ruins that soil.
See, you can, you need to rebalance this. So you have, in this stage of humidity, the modes cannot grow in your homes.
Got it.
So over in the 90s, what I remember last time was over 20 million people in asthma problem. Asthma is a trigger from the basement environment. Sure. So that's why, you know, and my wife actually forced me to make this happen.
And this is what, you know, it's amazing is that, you know, so many great ideas are made from an actual need. You had a need and you made it. And I know that you've told me in a previous conversation, Greg, that, you know, people in other continents like Africa are inviting you guys. Why? You know, people who are watching want to know, why would somebody in Africa want to meet with you guys? Explain to them.
Why they really want to meet with us. Approximately 80% of all the children in the third world die of surface water related diseases. Diseases such as malaria, cholera, dysentery, diarrhea, you name it. On the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website, they have 37 diseases that they're looking for, surface water diseases. And they're trying to address all of those diseases individually and
like
how
dysentery.
to help. Dysentery, cholera, you name it. So now all of a sudden, if you eliminate the source, if you eliminate the standing water, now you've thus greatly mitigated any chances of those diseases. So get rid of the problem itself, get rid of the source. So I mean, that's why we want to reach out to people like Bill Gates, so we can see this, because millions of people are dying every day. Today.
As we were talking, somebody died of the problem. It is that critical that as we were talking today, somebody died of the problems you're talking about.
Exactly.
It's that critical. And so, and so it's feasible for them to do it. It's not a great amount of technology. It's something relatively simple, right?
It's actually very simple. It's some of the best solutions in this world are simple. And it's all about biomimicry. We're going back, studying nature, and coming up with solutions. And the technology was based, Andrew actually has a very profound medical background, and he understands the human body and the respiratory system profoundly. And because of his understanding of the human body is a system. The earth is a system. And if you understand how the body works, you understand how the earth works. And that's where his genius came from. And he actually didn't create the solution by studying the earth. He created the solution by understanding and studying the body.
And the problems that created it. And then you take the problems and correct it in a simple way. Now you guys are headquartered in Detroit.
Absolutely.
It is, to me, it's such a wonderful thing that people who are from this area, as they become successful, they stay in the community. And what inspires both of you about Detroit?
I'm a Detroit boy. I was born here, I was raised here. I want to raise my family here. I believe this was the birthplace of the middle class, the $5 workday. We built the middle class. We defined the world's economy. And that was all defined on really two things. Was a dream and courage to fulfill that dream, and that was by Henry Ford.
That's right.
And the last 100 years was defined on manufacturing in the automobile. And we can define the next 100 years in Detroit. It's a comeback. Everything starts and finishes. And now we can define the next 100 years based on water and water technologies and redefining, what do you think of when you think about Michigan? Water.
Yes.
We are the water capital.
Exactly.
And that's why we have to put everything together, because we have all the resources here. We have the education, we have the politics, we have the philanthropists. We just have to put that together in order to create a whole new economy about solving the world's water problems.
That's wonderful. And I'll tell you, we kept our show in Detroit, same way, our Ask Dr. Kennedy show. It's not, I want to point out to people who are watching, it's not always easy. It's not always the easiest choice to do that. And you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of us really feel our community is strong, it's vital, it's what gave us everything that we have, our families and our futures, and we want to maintain that. Wouldn't you agree?
Not only would I agree, but I really believe what Detroit is what defined me. It defined my family. My father worked in the auto industry. My whole family came from the auto industry. My grandparents came from the auto industry. And that gave me everything I have. And now all of a sudden,
you want to give that back.
I want to give that back, and there's the opportunity too, thanks to people like Andrew.
And Andrew, let me ask you a question. This is the thing, when you're doing things that you believe and dream in, what gives you the ability to say, you know what, I can do it? Because lots of folks out there say, you know what, I want to do this, I want to do that. But what makes a person like you do it?
To do it, and this is the very, Mother Nature is very simple. And it's nothing between. It's either way, plus, minus, male, female. Doesn't matter what form. The TV is not going to work without on and off and on and off.
Correct.
So all your computer, all systems, and only what I'm thinking, you have to be consistent. Whatever you have your dream, you have to continue and keep up. It took me so long, 7 years alone, searching and developing this before I started exposure. And over the years, then I've always looking, who's gonna be the next guy who I'm gonna meet. And I had few attempts, with the people. And when I met Greg, there was a time changing, because I was looking for him for 26 years.
But it's amazing, what you said is absolutely true. You have an idea and you're persistent and you follow it and it works through. You're an inspirational man. I think you're gonna do a lot to change not only Detroit but the world. Thank you guys for joining us.
Absolutely, thank you for having us.
You guys are what makes Detroit great, and totally part of the Detroit Rising. So I appreciate you taking the time.
We appreciate it as well. Thank you very much.
All right, good one.
The number one net area has historically always been quite a wet area. It's quite thatchy. We never really do anything basically financially, if I'm honest with you. We cover it up for the run-ups, but sometimes it gets wet underneath. And yes, historically it has been, you know, weeks, a couple of weeks sometimes before it's not been 100% fit. Going on to the net area, what you're about to see over there, other than this system going in, has never been scarified, it's heavily thatched, it's had no drainage in it. It's the run-ups basically, what we use for the run-ups. It's the number one net area, the internationals use it, but on there we thought, do you know what, let's give it a go because there's nothing been ever done to it. So you can't say, oh, it's because the drains are working now, or you can't say it's because you scarified it out heavily, or done this, we've done nothing. No verti-draining, nothing. It's never been, literally, it's a run-up area, and the reason we don't do a lot to it is financial, more than anything else. Champions Trophy was June, May the 28th through to June the 23rd, and Matt did explain that probably will take about 12 weeks to hit its targets, or happily hit its targets. It's still, I'll be quite honest with you, very sceptical, just thought to myself, you know, the lads did a fantastic job who came and do it, you know, they're very respectful of us. In the morning, say when they came, if you'd have stopped them at 10 o'clock and said, oh, the lads can come and bowl on it, you could have bowled on that, because it was just small golf holes. I mean, if you play golf, you see them all the time on greens and people play on them. I've happily had international players running up on it. And then during the Champions Trophy, again, we cover with sheets, as you've probably seen us do out there. Worst thing you can ever do, which we find, is covering wet. Never cover wet because obviously there's nowhere for it to dry. You know, it's just pointless. Sweats underneath, stays on top. We covered up one night, Thursday just before the Champions Trophy final. India, and which was well documented, were netting on the Saturday morning. England was on the Friday afternoon, and India on the Saturday morning. It rained that night, and one of the players, I didn't see it myself, basically took a photo from the flats that you'll see over there, and for half an hour you couldn't see the ground from there. It rained that heavily. We had 15 mil of rain in half an hour. Now, Mark will tell you, he reckons it would take, bearing in mind the water ran directly underneath the sheets on the bowler's takeoff, which it always does. You know, we know it's going to do it, but it's unfortunate. You're talking probably a good week to get it really firm. Straight away, we came the next morning, rolled the sheets off expecting, you know, trying to explain to England that they're not going to play is never going to be great. And it was fit, it was dry. You are going to get a certain amount that will run off, and you're going to get a certain amount that will dry off. It was dry. It was dry enough that you could have bowled on that. We took them off at 8 o'clock in the morning. You could have been bowling on that at 10 o'clock. On that area that's wet, I've just put down there over this last few days, well, 'cause it rained as well. I had the sprinklers on in case it didn't rain. We put down probably about 120 to 130 millimetres of water, just by my own eye and knowing what it was like before. And Mark, who's been here since 1989, knows. He reckons it's better than I do, but I say at least 15 mil an hour. That's draining at a place that was at 1 mil an hour. The other thing about it is it hasn't dried out in the holes, we've noticed. We had a really hot spell, well, I think pretty much everybody did for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the holes didn't dry out, which Mark spotted straight away, which was quite interesting, because we expected, if I'm honest, them to dry out quite badly. We actually thought if it was working and pulling it through that much, that area would be the area that you'd have a big circle of, and it didn't. It actually stayed pretty true around there. The Category C cricket grounds and your good club cricket grounds that you actually say, well, we've got the covers for the square, but the run-ups are poor. Even if you did it in the localised areas, you know, if you just did your run-ups. If you said to me now we could do it minimal and still do a bit of verti-draining, which is £1,000 a year, still do a little bit of scarifying just to make the top a little bit better, then, and you're putting that in, it's going to cost you one hit, then it would definitely, in my mind, if this hadn't got it now, and I've seen what's happened over there, it would be, I would be swaying towards putting that in. Again, my guy that looks after the nets, Mark, he basically said it would be a good couple of weeks before it was really fully dry. You could net on it probably a day and a half later, but we were playing, you'd have played 2 or 3 hours after.
Of this rain, we thought it would be the perfect time to do this story, so we sent Guy out to Belle Isle, and you're there because he's got a really cool story on something that can help all of us with the rain and all that water that pools around our homes. Tell us about it.
Karen, I've been following this story for 8 months now because, you know, we're so into the reinvention of the Detroit and the people who are inventing new things. This is one of them. We're known as the motor capital of the world. In the future, we could be known as the water management capital of the world. Here's why. You can see where some guys came out here and did a little two-tracking out here. This is an area that is traditionally very low. You would have standing water. It wouldn't be usable as part of the park. Well, I can tell you, I've walked through here, and it's all dried out and firmed up. Thanks to these. These are known as Parjanas, and they got their first test with a backyard in Grosse Pointe Park.
We called it Lake Yorkshire.
Every spring, Victoria Salamis watched her backyard become lakefront property.
Actually, the whole yard is completely covered.
How deep?
Well, at least 8 inches down there.
Deep enough to float the giant railroad ties out back. Drains didn't work, pumping was expensive, so she took a leap of faith and installed a newly patented Detroit invention, the Parjana, a plastic stake that magically helps the water go where it's supposed to, into the ground. Her yard has looked like this ever since.
We had so much rain that year, and it happened again. And there was no water. And since then, it's been clear.
Pretty amazing.
It is. For me, I was very pleased.
The state is one of Parjana's biggest customers. On this cold February day, they were installing the rods on Belle Isle, a test project aimed at reducing stormwater runoff that cost the city and its taxpayers $2 million a year.
Once we do the 24 acres and show that we can stop all water from those 24 acres from going back to DWSD, then the next step is to do all of Belle Isle. And then that truly becomes a paradigm shifting moment for all of stormwater management history, because it's a new way to manage stormwater on a global basis.
It's formally called an energy passive groundwater recharge Parjana. It's essentially helping the layers below the surface communicate, guiding the water on a microscopic level to layers capable of accepting the water and dispersing it horizontally. Parjana is installing 3,000 of these on Belle Isle. Every project's installation is customized to suit the property's unique characteristics. It should make flooded areas usable again.
Well, for example, during the Grand Prix, it's an issue when you have standing water in the lake. So if we can address that and make that a better user experience, then that's good. So the more that we can open up spaces for public use, then we fulfill Frederick Law Olmsted's dream, which was to make this park available to everyone forever.
And it takes away prime breeding grounds for mosquitoes.
Then you can mitigate malaria, cholera, dysentery. We truly believe here at Parjana, or we wouldn't be doing it, that this is the biggest fundamental change in the history of mankind.
The inventor is Andrew Nemchek. Parjana was born in 1997 when, like many of us, he had a flooded basement.
That aggravated me, you know, and for a month, and I said, that's it. I have to do something with this water.
For 5 years, as a young man in Polish coal mines, he watched how water behaved in the rock. Those 20-year-old memories sparked his imagination, and 7 years later, his invention is about to take off.
You know, I really feel comfortable because only, doesn't matter for me anything. Only matter is it's workable.
In all businesses, especially paradigm-shifting businesses, you struggle and you struggle and you struggle, and you get to that tipping point. We're not there yet, but we can see it, and we're proud of it. And we want to give back to Detroit and make it a Detroit story.
And there is the business end of the Parjana. Again, 3,000 of them now in the ground here at Belle Isle. You can't see them. You won't trip over them. Greg McPartland joining us live. If someone's sitting at home saying, okay, I've got a mess in my backyard, are you guys to the point where you can commercially help them?
Absolutely. We have approximately 150 full-scale commercial installations all throughout the world, mostly here based in Detroit.
And in terms of the cost, it could run the gamut. It's on a case-by-case basis.
Absolutely. We are a very cost-effective solution, but more importantly is that we guarantee our solution.
Now, in addition to this, for people, this was Earth Day and Earth Week this past week. This could have a huge environmental impact because it keeps the water where we want it and where we can use it, in the ground.
Absolutely. That's really our goal of Parjana. What we do is we actually bring the water into the ground before it actually goes into the rivers or gets evaporated into the air.
Right, because we lose about 90% of our water in Michigan because it evaporates.
Well,
right?
Evaporates or run off into the rivers and streams.
All right. So great promise. Thanks for sharing the story with us.
Absolutely.
And Andrew's a story in and of himself.
Absolutely.
The inventor.
Andrew is a pure gift. He really is. He's just an amazing man and an amazing mind, all from here. And we really want to make it a Michigan story and an Andrew story because he's a great man.
Well, continued success. And the test will be not just by the end of the summer, we'll know just how effective this is.
We're looking at the end of the summer for the final results. Early fall, late summer. That's what our goal and objective are.
In the meantime, it will help keep the track from breaking up, won't it?
Absolutely.
Getting the water away
Absolutely.
from it. All right.
Great.
Greg, thanks so much.
Thanks
by the way, you can see the Grand Prix prep's already underway. Karen, think about the subsurface, like layers of cheese that you get from the deli where you can't quite peel off the layers. This device will make sure that the water knows where those little gaps are between the deli cheese, if you will. That's the best analogy I can come up with.
I get
By the way, Karen, I know that your boots are your trademark, but okay. And you know what? I don't want you to be intimidated, but there's my style choice for the day.
Like from the 80s?
Yeah, and it turns out, you know what? Thanks to Parjana, I didn't even need them.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you came prepared, but I might need to pitch in on a better, cooler pair of boots for you. Maybe.
I know. And now I got 13 minutes to join you,
Yes, right.
because I don't want to miss out on the Avalon Bakery stuff.
All right, we'll see you back in the studio.
Standing water and water in basements, it's a major problem, especially here in Michigan.
Yeah, especially these days. But now a Southfield company has an innovative solution. In tonight's Fox E report, Robin Schwartz shows us how they're testing their system at the Detroit City Airport.
It's a swampy mess in this spot on the airfield at Detroit's Coleman A. Young International Airport. So you can see why these workers are drilling and installing these 20-foot-long plastic tubes. It's all part of a new type of drainage system. The owners of a Southfield company hope will change the way water is drained around the world.
Now we have the ability to actually address that surface water.
There's so much energy inside the ground, which we don't even have a clue.
Inventor Andrew Nemchek first came up with the technique to keep water out of his own basement. His company, Parjana, has spent 7 years researching and developing it. Nemchek used to work in a mine in Poland, where he got a good look at what happens beneath the Earth's surface.
You can see the ice age underground in mining. So I was working about 4,000 feet underground. And you can see the water, how it travel. So that gives me a little bit ideas.
His system involves using energy from the expansion and contraction of the Earth to operate pumps, which can pump up to 150 gallons of water an hour, 24 hours a day, back into the ground.
And really what we're doing is we're accelerating Mother Nature.
Golf courses, airports, anywhere, housing development, anywhere you have stagnating water, this can resolve the issue.
The airport project is meant to demonstrate what the pumps can do. If all goes as planned here at City Airport, the sky is the limit. We're told the FAA will spend the next 90 days evaluating the system. And if they like what they see, it could be installed at every airport across the U.S. The company just started installing its systems in January, and they already have 75 in place across Michigan. They say their prices are comparable to any other waterproofing solution, and there's a money-back guarantee. Parjana has even had interest from third world countries, where diseases spread by stagnant water cause 80% of all deaths. They say their systems could save energy and lives across the globe. With the Fox E Report, I'm Robin Schwartz.
The base company says it has a unique solution to eliminate standing water.
Yeah, and it's earth-friendly. They recently tested it out at City Airport. In tonight's Fox E Report, Robin Schwartz shows us the results.
Back in February, it was a virtual swamp in this section of Detroit's Coleman A. Young International Airport, where standing water has been a problem for decades. The Southfield-based company Parjana used the muddy mess as a test site to demonstrate how they can fix it. Using these 20-foot-long plastic tubes. It's all part of a drainage system which can pump up to 150 gallons of water an hour back into the ground 24 hours a day. Andrew Nemchek invented it. He's an engineer who once worked in mines in Poland, where he saw exactly how water moves underground.
The water is traveled to the ground and travel from the side of the pump.
What we're doing is we're actually harnessing the energy from the expansion and contraction of the Earth.
7 weeks later, we went back to the site and found a few puddles, but nothing like the swamp we saw before. Nemchek says putting in a few more tubes will solve the problem completely.
We installed our system, and within 2 months, we've eliminated their standing water issues.
McPartland adds, now that the water is gone, birds have also moved elsewhere, and that's a good thing because they pose a real hazard at airports. The company's in touch with the FAA, and we're told representatives plan to come back out here and see the progress for themselves, with possible plans to use this system at airports across the country. Parjana has other big plans. They've done work for Ford Motor Company and dozens of other sites across Michigan. Now they're working on proposals for the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial and the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., and the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. Following their success at City Airport, they say the sky's the limit for this green innovation. With the Fox E Report in Detroit, I'm Robin Schwartz.
54 passengers are safe and sound this morning after their JetBlue flight had to turn around and make an emergency landing at Westchester County Airport because of a bird strike. 2 geese slammed into the windshield just after takeoff on their way to Florida. And who can forget the splash landing in the Hudson River that cemented the fear of a bird strike in our consciousness? In 2009, Captain Sully Sullenberger was forced to land his U.S. Airways flight in the Hudson after birds took out his jet's engines. And just last week, we got firsthand account of a bird strike when a passenger on Delta Flight 1063 captured one on video. But these are just a couple of the over 100,000 wildlife strikes that have happened since 1990. So how can we help prevent this very clear and present danger? Our next guest could have the answer. In fact, it may be in one of their hands right now. Greg McPartland and Andrew Nemchek of Parjana Inc. join us now with the details. So yes, we have an engineer here. It's very high tech, but also
Yes.
the premise behind it is very simple. You have it in your hand right there.
Correct, absolutely.
Tell me what that's called.
It is called the EGRP, which is an energy groundwater recharge pump.
But essentially, it's a water pump for standing water. Tell me how that works.
What we do is we have the ability, we have a proven green solution that has the ability to eliminate standing water.
And essentially, that's the source
Correct.
for many of these birds. Not the case in some airports where there are reservoirs and natural habitats. But for standing water, what we're seeing right there, you eliminate that, you eliminate the birds who need that, to thrive.
Exactly. What we have the ability to is we harness the energy from the expansion and contraction of the Earth and hydrostatic pressure to actually draw the water into the ground.
Okay, and let's talk about this, Andrew, as well. You've had success so far. This is now in place and installed in Detroit Airport, a major airport here in the U.S. And tell me about that.
Andrew?
We did this airport because we want to get the water, standing water, and also is attracting so many birds, the species. So either way, is this salt water species coming to the land for food. And that's the attracting. So they designed this system first time was at homes.
Yeah, in homes is where you discovered it. You just said, you know what, I have standing water in my home, Greg, let's get rid of it, and it worked out that way for you, correct?
Absolutely. That's how Andrew came up with the problem, or the solution. He had a problem at his home, and he came up with a solution.
Well, what's the feedback in Detroit? Are they saying, wow, we have seen a considerable difference here when it comes to birds?
The number one thing for birds to thrive, they need standing water. That's what attracts them. And what we do is we mitigate the standing water,
well, let's talk about
which actually
this.
Reduces the wildlife.
In the past couple of days, you've had a number of meetings with the FAA and the Pilots Association. What's going on? Where does that stand? When can we see these in New York area airports where this has happened so much?
Well, hopefully very, very soon. We're working very hard with them. We've identified that there's a problem, and we have a proven solution. So we really look forward to working with them quickly.
You're on the right track, so we will see this happening at our area airports.
Absolutely, that's our goal, very soon.
All right, thank you so much, Greg and Andrew, for being with us and providing some kind of solution for this problem that we're seeing over and over again. Your time is now 6:47. Sukanya?